Nepal's newly appointed interim Prime Minister Sushila Karki has promised to meet the demands of the Gen Z-led protests to end corruption. According to AFP, Karki promised her government wouldn't stay longer than 6 months and set elections for March. The 73-year-old former Chief Justice spoke publicly Sunday for the first time since she was sworn in office last week after her predecessor's resignation. Let's get perspective from a company that's Nepal's largest taxpayer and one of its biggest employers. The Chaudhary Group was directly impacted by the protests, with its factories and family homes vandalized and set ablaze during the protests. Joining us exclusively from Kathmandu is Chaudhary Group Managing Director Nirvana Chaudhary. Nirvana, good to have you with us. We heard from the new Prime Minister urging for calm. Is calm returning to the country?
Thank you, Hasminda. Yes, we've seen over the last 24 hours that, with the armed forces taking charge finally 24 hours ago, we are seeing law and order and people's day-to-day lives getting back. Offices are opening up, roads and traffic is back in motion. So yes, we are seeing that. However, what we are also seeing is that while the Gen Z protests that moved on, in parallel, when they dissolved the parliament, there was also the existing, the party youth groups who are now, in written, they've said that we don't agree on this. We don't agree what the Gen Z movement has done, how they've appointed the new PM, etc. So we are seeing certain signs that, maybe there's going to be another fraction of the current political parties groups probably getting down on streets. As of today, fingers crossed, things are getting back to normal. People are getting back to work and getting back to their daily lives.
So there's still a fair bit of uncertainty in the situation in the country. We know that the Gen Zs were up in arms protesting against poor governance, corruption, talking about an elitist society. What do you make of the allegations made by the Gen Z?
So, what the allegations as well as the frustration made by Gen Z is, I think, to a large extent valid. They have been talking about the corruption and oppression and the country's political instability over the last 10 years. I mean, the Gen Z. From Gen Z's perspective. Over the last 25 years itself, we've had close to 22, 23 governments. Last 30 years, we've had close to 27, 28 governments. Our country, a population of 30 million, over 50% of the population is the youth. And out of the youth, 20% of them are currently unemployed. And we've got annually 500,000 youth leaving the country for migrant employment, who are actually funding the country's GDP through money remittance. So, when you see at the top three leaders of different political parties continuously changing seats, and there's no stability in terms of the policies they make. And then obviously through the media, you see a lot of perspective on lavish lifestyles that they and their family lead. That obviously leads down to a lot of frustration from the youth, who are unemployed, who are seeing the country not really move forward in that degree that they envisage. So the entire protest actually started off on a peaceful transition. They wanted to give a message, and that was triggered by a social media ban that the government was talking about. It wasn't really a ban. I think that's where the narrative got changed a little bit. It was where the government was asking different social media companies like Meta, etc., to just come and register in Nepal. There was a narrative that was a sign of silencing the freedom of speech for the people,
right.
And that sort of triggered it off. So that's when the protests came in.
What can be done? What is being done? The big question is really, what are the billionaires, the businesses helping to do to allay these concerns?
See, the only thing we can do is within Nepal, continue to fuel our businesses, continue to run our businesses, continue to look inward now because of the instability, because of the protest, because especially because that there was infiltrated external forces that hijacked the Gen Z's protest and started vandalizing homes, factories, showrooms, everything. Forget about external investor. Even the internal business community are scared of doing anything. Are asking themselves that for what should we do all of this? Is this the price we get for contributing heavily to the economy? Forget about foreign investors. The internal, I think the state of mind for safety is the big concern currently. But obviously, getting confident that the current government and the policies become more favorable and there's safety for the private sector, I'm sure, like myself, private sector is going to get back on its feet, rebuild our companies, again, continue the path of helping the economy grow in different avenues and sectors.
Are you planning to hire more locally? We know from your numbers out there that you hire about 50,000 workers. Are there plans to create more jobs? Because right now, when you take a look at the Nepali economy, some 30% is actually remittances. That suggests that there's a lot of jobs internally within the country.
So the remittance that comes in is from the youth migrating to Middle East and Southeast Asia, Malaysia, etc. Right. So that fuels in about 12 to $13 billion of money remittance coming in every year. Within Nepal, there's 20% unemployment. However, I mean, organizations like us employ 25, 30,000 people. And we'll continue to grow. We'll continue to look at avenues of employing more people. But like I mentioned, it's going to take time because the foreign investment, that a lot of projects that we had in pipeline are already thinking twice in the instability of Nepal. So, we'll have to lead by example. We'll have to move probably twice the more speed that we've been doing. We have to go with twice the more belief that we've been going just to prove that, hey, Nepal is the future. Nepal's got the right regime. Nepal's got the right policies coming in place.
How's the Chaudhary family coping with what's happening? We know that, the family's assets have been burned. We have homes, factories, buildings set ablaze. What's been the extent of the damage? How is the family coping?
See, I mean, it's very, very disheartening. We're very sad because not only are the home that our family lives in and I grew up in, but even our ancestral home, our showrooms, our factories, and at this, you see, in a couple of weeks we've got the main season, the peak season, annual season where everyone celebrates the main season of Nepal coming. So as a company, we had actually manufactured and stocked goods of almost 3 months because that's when the peak sales happened. And with this looting, with this external group of people who came into our factories when there was no police, there was no army for that 24 hours, and started looting these goods from our motorcycles to our cars in the showroom to our electronic goods. I think it must be worth at least 40, $50 million. Our homes, so I mean, you can't put a price to that, Slinda, but it's pretty sad. I mean, I feel sad to even look at all these videos which are just coming all over the news. I mean, my parents are obviously devastated. The house you can actually build, but the home that we've lived in, grown up in, the memories that we have, it's pretty painful to see this. It's very, very painful to see this. And like me, there are many other businessmen, entrepreneurs whose homes have been vandalized for no reason. I mean, what is the reason for this happening? Because we've done more for the country, we've been there for the country when it's needed. It's not fair. And I think the Gen Z, the real group of Gen Z and the overall larger population understand it. And they are pouring in messages of sympathy, saying, we are there for you, we'll find the real culprits, we are doing this. But I mean, there's been a huge sense of huge damage. Factories we can rebuild, showrooms we can rebuild. Home is a little sensitive, it gets a little bit personal, and it's pretty sad.
Nirvana, how do you rebuild from this? And is there a need to rebrand?
There's absolutely, from a company's perspective, I mean, absolutely no need to rebrand. Our rebranding is basically you can burn our homes, but you cannot burn our dreams. But from a country's perspective, because of the continuous instability that's been happening, unrest that is happening, one thing or the other happening, we need to prove ourselves. The taste of the pudding lies in eating it. I think the country needs strong leadership, people who know what they're doing in different fields. Prove it to the rest of the world within the country that these are the avenues and economies and sectors that we are able to do well in. And I think only after we see real growth, real prosperity, and now people talking about the opportunity, will be able to make a dent in people's perception, not only within Nepal, but globally as well. I'm talking about mainly investors and tourism, for example, which is about 10% of our GDP. For them to come back, we'll have to work twice the speed now.
Speaking of opportunity, Trump has imposed 10% tariffs on Nepal, which is the lowest among South Asian nations. Is there a sense of how, the Chaudhary Group might seize the opportunity?
Haslinda, so the 10% tariff and where Nepal's competitive advantage lies is in mainly sectors like garments, or there's a little bit of a pharma industry that is going. So there are a lot of people who are in the garment industry or the pharma or similar businesses where the tariff in neighboring countries are very, very high. They're already looking into it. They're already looking at partnering with few companies within Nepal. We are not in those sectors, and we don't want to be able to take advantage of which we feel is going to be much or for a temporary, unknown time where the tariff situation might just change overnight. We are too focused in our core businesses. Our core businesses of FMCG, financial services, hospitality, auto and telecom are growing organically across. We're also making acquisitions across in other parts of the world. It's Nepal, our own home ground, that we need to fix, which the team within hours of this agitation of this protest have already gotten back on its feet. For us, I could see some of our company team during the midst of the fire, they were trying to go in and trying to save just the data center
Right.
piece, not for the asset, but because we needed to provide the service to the customers. So I think as on today, within 72 hours of this protest, every business of CG is already gotten to a place where we have continued uh,
Right.
you know, s- our business operations.
We knew that. We knew that CG Foods India was planning an IPO. Is that still on track, or is that being derailed by what's happened in Nepal?
I don't think our global aspirations or our IPO plan, especially for CG Food India, has changed. I think we are pretty much on track. I think the team and our company is as per plan for the IPO.